Which word of the day? Today's word is Leonis, noun. Leonis is the surname of every star that appears in the constellation Leo. In astrology, Leo is ruled by the sun, the celestial body that governs life and vitality. The sun never goes retrograde, and likewise, Leos are renowned for their stability, loyalty, and consistency. They are dedicated friends and lovers who put their hearts into every relationship. In fact, the Leo sign governs the heart. Lions love to watch their mates succeed, until they feel threatened. They can become impaired by their ego, pride, and jealousy when they start to fear their star power will be eclipsed. It's important to remember that their light is never obscured by others, and the bright shine of others' success does nothing to their own. Ultimately, Leo's own hubris is the greatest threat to their happiness. This fixed sign is known for its ambition and determination, but above all, Leos are celebrated for their remarkable bravery. In tarot, Leo is represented by the Strength card, which depicts the divine expression of physical, mental, and emotional fortitude. Fearless optimists who refuse to accept failure, Leos will find their deep wells of courage grow as they mature.
You haven't even read that?
Wait, what are you doing with the book?
So he has the confidence to finish the story.
Hear now the words of the witches.
This is Kevin, and welcome to Words of the Witches, the Charmed podcast that will guide you through the lesser-known published material in the Charmed universe and decide how it fits into the grand narrative of the TV series. Hello, spellworders. Before we do anything with this book, which is going to be a very epic, very important book for us, I have to come clean here. Back when we did episode 40, Phoebe Who, there was a spell in there that was used to vanquish Aura and Delilah. That was evil witches in my sight, vanquish thyself, vanquish thy might, in this and every future life. We made fun of it a lot, we talked about it a lot, and because I was just so wrapped up in the conversation, I forgot to mention that it is actually from the show. It's a big canonical oversight on my part. I do apologize. I recognized it. I knew it was from the show. I was just not thinking about it. It just, in my brain. So, please know that that is from the show. It was from Part of My Past. That was the one that the cousins used to curse P. Russell, and in turn Phoebe. That's what started this whole thing. So, and there was only one witch, so it was evil witch in my sight, vanquish thyself. But yes, it was from the show. And it does bring a conversation about what actually was done to Aura and Delilah in their future lives. Are they going to be cursed when they turn this age in their future life? Oh, sad. So they better have that amulet. I had to throw it out there. I had to mention it. I was called out on it. And yeah, there you go. I apologize. Please forgive me. Don't distrust me. I will do better at making sure that show references are noted and bring those to the forefront. I'm just so embarrassed. Thank you. I also want to remind you to send in any thoughts you might have about any of our episodes, about the books, about thoughts you might have had or feelings that might have been inspired, favorite things, least favorite things. Yeah, I'm going to just take it all in and share some feedback on the retrospective episode that will happen after we finish the books. We only have one more book after this, so start thinking about that. Also, start thinking about your favorite baddies, because I'll be putting pictures and descriptions on the Instagram for you to vote. So make sure you vote for your favorite baddies to make sure that they make it to the top. So keep an eye out for those after we finish the last book, Trickery Treat. So until then, let's start our episode on Leo Rising. This is episode 42. I have with me Bernard, right? That's how you say it?
Well, that's how the Americans say it. I say Bernard, but it's...
Bernard.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
So you're from Ireland. You're Irish.
That's right, yes. I am. I don't know how big the fan base is in Ireland, but I am a relatively new, as you'll find out, Charmed fan. It feels like a guilty admission that's sort of saying it publicly, but yeah, I'm definitely a Charmed fan.
Yeah. And you've recently just been binging everything and reading everything. So what made you decide to visit Charmed?
I guess it's just one of those things. I was always a Doctor Who fan, and it went off the air in 1989. And then, because we only get the UK channels here, and there's the BBC and ITV, they made no science fiction in the 1990s. So everything exploded in America about 1990. Just hundreds of series started being made after nothing in the 80s. So I started watching it and I liked them. But I sort of grew resentful of American TV because there was no Doctor Who on, and that's the one I wanted to see, and I could see the fan bases of other shows growing here and Doctor Who shrinking away. Now, eventually Doctor Who does come back, but by the late, or even the mid 90s, I just said, I stopped watching American sci-fi and American fantasy. And so this huge backlog started creating of stuff I probably should have seen, but I didn't. And I still bought all the magazines, kind of sci-fi magazines and what have you. But I was kind of just buying it because there were shows I wasn't watching, and one of course, was Charmed. And so eventually I sort of fell out with Doctor Who a few years ago, just stopped being my thing. I never really got into the new Doctor Who, the 2005 version, to be fair. And I said, I'm going to go back and watch all these shows I skipped over and missed, like X-Files, even stuff like not that good stuff. The Charm is way better than like Lex. I don't know if you know Lex. It's not great.
No.
Buffy or Charm. So I sat down, and there was lots of other ones I've done as well. So it's a Buffy or Charm. Well, I knew Buffy was quite popular, and believe it or not, I'd never seen an episode of Buffy, even though it was really, really big here. But for some reason I gravitated to Charmed because I was recording something on TV. It was a series, and before it there was this Charmed, and this is some modern Charm. I said, there's a modern Charm. So I was a bit surprised. Okay, maybe this, because there's a modern version, maybe the original version was good, like, because they only bring back the good stuff, So
right.
I haven't seen the new Charmed at all, and eventually I might reach there, but I decided to go back and get all the Charm stuff. So it took me about 2 years. What I do is I try to get all the comics and books and everything, and the episodes tend to fall my way, shall we say. But so I started watching it, and I really did love it. And all I knew was one thing, that Shannon Doherty was on it. She's the only cast, and she stormed off it through either drugs, drink, or infighting or something. That's all, because I remember reading about it. So, I had no other details. I didn't know it ran for 8 years, which is a phenomenally long run. It's an excellent run. But I decided, well, I just fly through these episodes. They're not going to be great. So, it's Charmed. It's a series. I think my sister might have watched some episodes, but, after about 3 episodes, I said, this cast is really good. Like, my only encounter with Charmed live, shall we say, was I was living in a house in Cork with 4 or 5 others. We were all working separately, and one of the girls in the house, none of us talked because we didn't really like her, but she used to watch Charmed with her boyfriend in the sitting room by herself. And I said, I came in one day and there was a Charmed episode on. This is to my shame now. and I think it would have been about 2007, so it would have been one of the later episodes, I'd say, because it might have been a year behind. And I said, "Is that Charmed?" God, I said, that was only good when Shannon Doherty was there. I said to her, and she went, I left her. So I apologized. I apologized to Charmed. I'm not sure I want to apologize to the other lady, but I definitely don't agree with that original statement I made about. So that was my only encounter with Charmed ever, like, until I bumped into the new Charmed, which I used to see the last 30 seconds of, and that got me into the original and only Charmed.
Okay. Yes. What a wonderful journey. That's so fascinating. It's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. But yeah, and then you started being a completionist. You got all the books, you got all the comics, and you're reading through. You're ahead of the podcast now because you're into the comics before we even get there.
That's right. Yeah.
It's very cool. And I loved, because you are on Twitter and you post all your little updates and you give your opinions, and it's so great to read.
Thanks. Yeah, and I used to fly through the episodes. Then I thought, you know what, there's only a finite amount, so I started doing them every second day then, so it would stretch out the experience. So I think about season 6 through 8 took about 3 months, whereas season 1 through 5 took about 6 weeks. Like, so.
Yeah. So yeah, it took me 8 years to watch it week by week. And
I was trying to imagine what that was like. You get the cliffhanger and you think, oh my God,
I have to wait. Yeah.
we have to wait and think, oh yeah, just switch it on now. So there are pluses and minuses to the binging, but I think being alive is the only way. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
listening to your other guests and they switched it on the first episode and fell in love, and I kind of be a bit jealous as well that I didn't follow along live.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different. I would go to school the next day and just talk with people like, oh, did you see it? What do you think's going to happen? It was so fun.
Yeah, I was in the workplace. I'd say even when it started. So like I'm sure nobody would have been there to talk about it anyway. So yeah, maybe I'd surprise myself if I brought it up at lunch break one time, but it never happened. So, and I love Paige. I think by the end of season 8, she's almost surpassed Phoebe as my favorite character. But and if you'd asked me after season 5, I would have not. I would still have had Paige way down the list, but she shot up there and with a late run, and so I love Paige, and I mean I love them all, like and Prue as well. I know you're a big Prue fan, and I love Prue, but she was there for 3 years, and somehow though by the end of season 8, you kind of have forgotten. I mean, the show's forgotten about her, obviously, but you do sort of forget about her by the end. So I mean, I love Prue, but obviously Piper's the heart of the show, and she's the one who kind of dragged me in at the start because I'd never heard of Holly Marie Combs. Now I'm about to start Pretty Little Liars just to watch Holly Marie Combs.
Yeah, and there's a spin-off of that too, or a new version of that too.
There's even Indonesian versions. I don't know how I'm going to find those eps, but we'll see when that happens.
Yeah, I still need to watch that show because I've known about it. I've kind of heard the inklings, and of course Holly, but I haven't watched it, so I should probably do that too.
Yeah, and her acting is so like powerful, just in key moments. I do in my tweets. I do build up Shannon's acting because she's like so powerful, but Holly's just consistently good throughout.
Yeah, Leo Rising. This is the second to last book, so I guess it's 40 in the numbered books, but R42. This is a very highly acclaimed book. This is a lot of people's favorite book. Between this and Brewing Storm, people like this one quite a bit. I think probably because it has these 3 guys, Wyatt, Chris, and Leo, as like the protagonists in a way, saving the day. And yeah, we have a season 8 Brian Krause picture, Leo picture, and then we have the Wyatt and Chris one that was on the wall.
I'll tell you a story about this, Kevin. When I bought it, I couldn't look at the cover because I assumed I bought this during season 5, mate, because it was the last one I got, because I waited until I found a cheap version, which was about £8 sterling, which it was 30-40 pounds sterling, but I found a really cheap version, which was actually in good condition, by the way. But I couldn't look at the cover because I thought these were the 3 boys or men that the girls would end up with, and I didn't want to know their faces. So I could see Leo, and I thought, okay, I'm not looking at the other 2s. I said, I bet you Phoebe ends up with the guy on the right. Just like
that is so funny. I can't be spoiled. That's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, I gave up reading the back of the books about book number 2 because they just tell you the whole story. So I literally just opened the book and started reading it like without looking at anything.
Wow. But this is a great picture of all of them, and then behind them we have like beakers and science and test tubes and like a lab equipment, and then I guess it's red in the background. I'm guessing maybe it's blood in the air, possibly.
It's kind of an underworld colored dark red, brown.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It has the tagline, "Leo has fallen from grace, and his timing couldn't be worse." And the back of the book says, "The power of 3 has gone underground. Clues and magic can't be found. Grown-up sons come quickly forth. Help your father find his worth." While a newly mortal Leo is out for a walk with Wyatt and newborn Chris, demons trap the charmed ones in the house and take them to the underworld, where they are imprisoned by demon scientist Dr. I want to say Nivik, but in the book he says the G is not silent, so
that's right.
Nivik, who plans to steal the power of 3. When Leo returns to find the house empty and in even more disarray than when he left, he tries to piece together what happened, but can't. Due to his recent fall from grace, the elders ignore his calls. What is he to do? With no other options and no magic of his own, Leo becomes desperate. Using a spell from the Book of Shadows, his son's magic, and a sliver of unicorn horn, he calls the future versions of Wyatt and Chris back to the present. Together, the Halliwell men go in search of the Charmed Ones. With Dr. Ganivic nearing success and the sisters powerless to stop him, it's up to Leo and the boys to save the day.
Collect all the charm books. I did that.
Yes, you did. So, what's cool about... Well, it's August right now, so we are actually in Leo season for astrology-wise.
Oh, that's right, yes. Leo is August, yes.
Yeah, so we're right in the Leo season. You know what's funny, though? I always found like the Leo episode titles to be pretty sexy. I think you've listened to Hanging with the Halliwells too, right?
I listened because season 8 was a bit of a wasn't the best season. I actually listened to all of them to get a bit more inside information on season 8, but I haven't listened to the earlier episodes yet, simply because I want to forget episodes, so when I watch them again, they'll all be fresh again. You know,
Sure.
Then I will listen to the pods, actually.
Okay, cool. Well, and there, when I talked about this a little bit, how I thought the Leo names were sexual. So, like, Saving Private Leo, I'm like, it sounds like Saving Leo's Privates.
Yes.
And then there's something about Leo just has like a mystery there. Ooh. And then Vio con Leo sounds just like, Vio con Leo. It's like, it's very exotic, you know. So, and then this one, Leo Rising, it can be a little...
It's there if you want to look for it, all right, yes.
Yeah, so I'm like, I'm just like, Leo just has sexy titles. But this was written by Paul Ruditis, who we know is a staple among the Charmed books and the Charmed comics, and he's coming out with the illustrated storybook in the fall.
He is Mr. Charmed, really, isn't he?
Yeah, he became a very huge resource, like for after Charmed, like the beyond the series lore. He's a big part of it. Because
this comes out like a good while after. How long after? This is about 15 months after the season, is it?
This was released August 28th, 2007. And then reprinted October 1st, 2007. So it's, quite a bit after.
Because Simon & Schuster used to do the Sabrina books, and they stopped. There's about 50 of them as well, and they stopped 8 months after Sabrina finished the last episode, whereas the Charm books go on for sort of 18 or 19 months after. So it's great that it's actually set in season 7, and because the continuity is probably where some Charm fans fall out with these books. And towards the end, I get the feeling the books were sort of just put out there. But here Paul has decided, this is a season 7 book. I'm going to fit it between these 2 episodes, and it's going to perfectly seamlessly fit into continuity. And that's part of the reason why I think a lot of people like it, because there's no trying to just, where does this fit in? Is it season 4 or season 6? It says it's season 6, but it reads like season 4. There's none of that. This is a season 7.
There's none of that. It's very clear where it takes place. Yeah. It's supposed to take place in 2005 between imaginary fiends and death becomes them. So, right between 20 and 21 of season 7.
Okay.
Very clear spot. So, chapter 1. Here we go. We are jumping right into the action. A demon attacks the girls in the dining room. Piper made a turkey. It goes flying across the room, hits the wall. Paige ends up orbiting a carving knife into the intruder, which explodes him. But like a dozen more demons come. Like they just keep appearing and appearing. And so there's like a battle about to go down. One throws one of Wyatt's toy cars at Piper, which hits her in the head.
Nearly knocks her out.
Knocks her out. Crazy. So how big was that toy car?
Yeah. It must be one of those big ones you sit in, is it?
Yeah. They're driving down the street in this toy car. But Paige does something cool here. She orbs like all the silverware on the table. She orbs it all at once and has it fly into the demon. So like just like stabbed like very like Carrie's mom.
so exactly. So does Paige practice knife throwing or orb knife throwing like up in the attic with a kind of dartboard or
right? I mean, she did something that was super cool. I would have loved to see that in the series because that's a really cool visual. This is a weird thing. Pepper notices one demon in the corner of the room recording the fight on a video camera, which is like, this is unsettling. And so Phoebe is in another room. She's in the kitchen while Piper and Paige are over in the dining room. She's in the kitchen fighting her own demons. And Phoebe is kind of like ducking behind the island. She's like in there putting a potion together.
I kind of struggled with this a bit. This scene, like how big is the kitchen that there's a standoff? You know, I kind of where are the other two demons standing that Phoebe's able to hide behind the? They must be like at the back door, is it, or?
Probably maybe close to the kitchen table. Although this is season 7, so in season 7, their kitchen got much bigger because they switched from Canoga Park to Paramount Studios and they had a bigger space.
Oh, I didn't notice that, but I will on my next watch through.
Yeah, because if you look at the earlier seasons, once they get to season 7, it just feels bigger.
Okay.
Which is crazy, but yeah. But she's like kind of behind the counter, and they're over on the side, and she's just like, "I'm gonna mix my potion ingredients together. I'm gonna get them, but I'm just gonna hide over here for a minute," because at this point she still only has her premonition power. She's like, "I need vanilla for this, and then I can get it." So she kind of reaches for the final ingredient in the cabinet. She puts the vanilla in there, and then she throws the potion at them, which vanquishes all 3 demons at once. Pretty powerful potion. But then in the corner of the room of the kitchen, there's somebody recording her on a video camera again. What is happening? Piper and Paige seem to be losing the upper hand as they're both knocked back into the conservatory fighting more demons. And then here comes Leo down the stairs. He's like, "I heard a crash," and he is coming down with a crossbow, shooting like the arrows at the demons. He's dodging energy balls. He's like takes a knife out of his belt like Athame. He's like, "Ha!" So he's fighting away, but they're not very effective at all.
Kevin, were these the weapons he used in magic school to torture the demons while he was?
Maybe. Yes. Oh my gosh. So yeah, he's completely mortal at this point. No power, so he's making do. Although I do kind of find it kind of poetic that he comes down with a crossbow. Like this was something that was like a huge weakness for him.
I hope you wipe that poison off.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. He's taking power back, I guess, with this. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna repurpose this thing that used to cause me so much dismay." But Pepper sees kind of Leo in trouble fighting them, so she's like, "No, my husband!" She blows up all the demons around Leo, and she's like, "I'm gonna rescue him." So now, after a moment, all the demons are gone. The manor is a mess, but overall calm is back. Piper chides Leo for not staying with Wyatt and Chris. She's like, "You're putting yourself in danger. Why are you doing this to yourself?" Pepper wonders if the attack was planned by Zanku, so we know Zanku's around. Ooh. And then this is where Piper and Leo have a little bit of a lover spat.
Yes.
I thought this was written really well, actually, and really like true to the characters. Leo hates feeling helpless and like he can't protect his family, and that's all he wants to do. While Piper doesn't want him risking his life. She's like, "You can't help the family if you get killed." There's this whole
sort of frostiness, or not, or standoffishness, if that's a word. That's depicted very well, and in a lot of books they'd be hugging and kissing after the fight. Oh, well done, whereas here there is that distance between them still.
Yeah, and they end the fight. They're fighting, and it's really great thing. But they say, "I love you too," like they with a little bit of angst in there. So it's like they showing they love each other, but they show that they're still mad at each other. And then she's like, "Go get dinner." She's like, "Just go get dinner for us and get some Chinese for the boys and stuff." And yeah.
And one thing I noticed, Kevin, in that chapter is, and as what is your official title, the world's biggest charmed fan, is it? said unironically, Paul puts medical kits in every room in the house, but why doesn't Paige just heal Leo? I mean, is that not something she can do at this stage?
No, she hasn't learned to heal on her own until season 8.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, because she has healed at this point, but she needed Leo's help, or she needed another person with her to help her heal. Yeah.
And are there medical kits on the walls? Little white boxes with red crosses in every room. I have, or is that just a?
I've never seen one.
Okay, they didn't buy the white boxes. They just got the medical kits. Okay.
They're probably just stored under a counter or in a drawer or something, because it would be such an eyesore if they're on the walls.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people saying, why have you got a medical kit in every room? But Paul says that all the powerful potion ingredients are kept in the attic. That's maybe the only sentence I had a contention with. I thought all the ingredients were kind of kept in the kitchen in different little compartments. I don't remember them ever. I know they make the potions up in the attic, but keeping the powerful ingredients in the attic, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, they do make a lot of potions in the kitchen. I feel like that's where most of the potion making would be taking place. And they have done potions in the attic too, but I feel like when they do it in the attic, it's something that they grab from the kitchen and carry up there to, if they're going to do something specific. So, yeah.
I just wondered about that. It seemed odd. Okay, well, I move on to chapter 2.
Chapter 2, yeah.
Okay, I'm reading this for the first time, so apologies if I... Chapter 2. Piper watches them leave. She knows Leo isn't powerless just because he isn't magical, but still she worries. Piper joins Phoebe and Paige with cleaning up in the kitchen. They intend to check the Book of Shadows when they hear a crash. Outside, Leo takes the boys and begins to walk home with dinner. I wonder how far the Chinese is away. Is it just down the street?
Yeah, they talk about how Leo drives there, so maybe he drove. I assumed he walked.
Yeah, maybe he did drive, yeah.
That's a canonical thing I have, because I'm like, he didn't have a car. But so I was just thinking he was walking at this point, but who knows?
So Leo has a lot on his mind. He returns home to an empty mess of a house. At first, he doesn't notice it's empty. He just thinks the debris is from the previous fight, but clearly something else has happened. There's no sign of the sisters. He instructs Wyatt to put up his force field for him and his brother. I presume the bubble appears at that stage, does it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Leo notices evidence of fighting upstairs, but there wasn't there before he left. He sees the Book of Shadows safe and sound. Whew. But the room is completely empty. However, the charmed ones are gone.
Gasp! Where could they be?
I like that. We don't see that scene. Normally there'd be a chapter where we see that scene, and that's good. That's good writing. You just see a great big hole, and you know that something else has gone down.
Yeah, the last we see of the sisters is we hear a crash. They look up, and then it cuts to Leo, and then it's his perspective. So he has no idea what went down in his absence, and we have to discover that as we go. So chapter 3, 12 hours later, Leo has Daryl come over to see if there are any police resources that could help them track down the sisters. And Daryl tells Leo, he's like, this is a supernatural problem, and there's nothing he can do. So he even reminds Leo, he's like, Sheridan is on our tail. If you do too much magic, if I do get involved, she's gonna come bust you, and you don't want that. And he's like, I know, I don't want that.
I sort of wanted Sheridan to be in a book.
Yeah, I mean, she's mentioned, but she's never been in a book. But yeah, it would be cool to see her kind of really be an antagonist at this point in the show. So Leo tells Daryl that Wyatt and Chris are being watched by teachers at magic school, so he kind of left them there to make sure they're safe and sound. And at magic school, the teachers are scrying for the girls, but they're not having any luck. They suck at scrying, apparently. Or maybe just because they're not on Earth, per se. The elders refuse to answer Leo's call because they're still bitter that he left them.
He's burnt that bridge, all right.
Burnt that bridge, which I don't blame him. The elders are dicks, so burn that bridge. Daryl leaves, and as he leaves, a new teacher of magic school comes through the door that's on the stairs. We learned from Legend of Sleepy Hollow where it kind of exists.
Yeah.
So she comes down, and her name is Nisha Maksud. And she comes down the stairs, which is hi to Nisha because she was on our War and Witches episode.
Oh.
So we had someone named Nisha. But this Nisha believes that the girls had to be taken to the underworld somewhere. And then she did some research, and she says the only thing that she could find about demonic recording was a show called Witch Wars.
Yay.
We know Witch Wars.
Yes, indeed.
And they was like, yeah, I know about that.
Do you think she used to watch it on the sly, like in her dorm room, or?
Yeah, right. Like this is my jam. This is what I watched. So Nisha then goes to the kitchen and begins to make some tea on the stove, as she and Leo discuss the next plan of action. She's like, and Leo's like, maybe we should work with demons. And she's like, oh, I don't know. You can do that. I'm not going to do that. Nisha gives Leo some of the tea she made, and everything goes dark for Leo. Then we see Leo, like, he's kind of like in a lucid dream state. He's seen images of orbs dancing around him. And then in the distance is a woman. He's like, is it Piper? No, it's someone else from his past who may offer his help. He's like, I know that woman. And so Leo wakes up, and first he's mad at Nisha for drugging him. He's like, you drugged me. But Nisha retorts that he needed rest, and that potion gave him a full night's sleep in just 30 minutes. So I wish I had that potion. I'd put that to use real well.
Yes, indeed.
So Leo is ultimately grateful and refreshed, and he now knows what he has to do, what the next plan of attack will be.
So just a quick question there, Kevin, please.
Yes.
Can Leo scry?
Leo can scry. He does have basic witch casting. He can do spell casting stuff too. Though
If he's mortal, can he?
He's mortal, which makes things a little different.
Maybe there's a muscle memory there. Maybe there's some sort of muscle memory he can go through the procedure and hope for the best sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have worked. I mean, it's always worth a shot. I guess there's no harm in trying it. I just don't know if it would have been effective or not if he did it.
Also, the calls from the neighbours to the police. I mean, I feel like that's something they should never highlight. You know, like in something like Superman when he hits a building, they're not allowed to show him injure anybody, even though probably people would die. You know, it's like one of those things in the series that doesn't need to be mentioned or maybe they should have put a line in that there's a cone of silence around the house or something, you know, because I just feel it sort of undermines things if the neighbors who were literally like 12 feet away, if you look at the outside, you know. So
would you remember in Ordinary Witches in season 7 where the regular people get their powers, get transferred to Denise and Ronnie?
Yes.
And she's like, I just always thought you had wild parties over here.
Exactly. It's just something vaguer like that.
All right.
Okay,
Chapter 4 is a big one. Are you ready for this?
I'm scrolling down. Okay, let's go. Piper awakes in the underworld in a cage, but it looks like no part she's ever seen before. Piper notices test tubes, fluorescent lights. She appears to be in a laboratory. Piper begins to piece her memories back together of how she got here. When Phoebe and Paige went to investigate the crash upstairs, Piper stayed behind to take care of more demons in the kitchen. One demon had laser eyes, and one could cause earthquakes. Piper eventually had been overwhelmed by the shaking as the floor below her broke, and she was pulled down into the dark. Now that she's captured, Piper notices a band-aid under her sleeve that covers a puncture wound. Has she been injected with something? Looking around, Piper notices 3 vials of blood over a fire. She surmises that is the blood of both herself and her sisters. She attempts to blow up her cage. I love the way she just tries to blow up everything in the lab.
Yeah.
It's not scientific. Piper attempts to blow up her cage or lock, but it's ineffective. She does, however, manage to blow up the blood vials and just about everything else in the room outside of her cage, and she kind of takes pleasure from it. But still, she's still locked up. Paige, however, is in her own energy field somewhere, and somehow she can hear the explosion, so we sort of know they're in the same domain. Mm-hmm. Paige remembers that before this at the manor, she and Phoebe took on 5 demons in an arrowhead formation in the upstairs hall. Paige decapitated one with the hall mirror.
I mean, this was graphic. This fight.
Didn't she orb one through the wall as well? Or that,
yeah.
When did she start orbing the demons? Is that something?
That's how coming up. Yeah, that's the next thing. So she orbs the mirror to her, puts it sideways, and just shears the demon in half with it. Crazy. Yeah. Or decapitates it. And then she does this one with the vase.
And then Paige calls for demon, exploding her into orbs. Another crash is heard in the attic. Paige orbs there, but as soon as she did, she fell asleep. Now, in her cell, Paige is guarded by 2 demons who she names Frick and Frack. And do you know who Frick and Frack are, Kevin?
No. I mean, are they from something?
Yeah, they are ice skating show from the 1930s, believe it or not.
Wow. Yeah. I just thought it was just Frick and Frack was a saying, just like this and that, like just odds and ends.
Yeah, I did, but I actually looked it up. There is an original Frick and Frack. Page 2 discovers a band-aid, and that she cannot orb out. Meanwhile, Phoebe was banging on a wooden door trying to get someone's attention. She was locked into a room in an old mansion, but was surrounded by cave walls. So some sort of artificial environment set up, plonked in the middle of Underworld. Phoebe remembers she was fighting the three remaining demons presumably after Paige had orbed into the attic. Phoebe rushed into her bedroom, grabbed 3 potions from her drawer, and incinerated the demons at her door. Phoebe then went to reunite with Paige in the attic, but was stopped by a demon in khakis and a lab coat. The demon threw a potion at Phoebe's feet, and she fell asleep. Phoebe notices that the lock on the room flipped. Someone was opening the door. Is Phoebe able to levitate at this stage? She levitates,
No.
but she does in the book, I think, a couple of times. Maybe it's that kung fu fighting she does where she just leaps at someone.
The only power she should have at this point is premonition, because she still lost the powers from the trial in Crimes and Misdemeanors, and then she got her premonition back in 6 Feet Under, and that's all she has at the moment. No empathy, no levitation.
Now, I know the house can be damaged by the fights, but demons leaving scorch marks behind, I thought the scorch marks repair just because, evil can't remain in this world once it's vanished. So the actual debris from a demon, if you like, its own scorch mark disappears after a fight. Whereas if the grandfather clock gets smashed, which it will shortly, that stays damaged, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, because they do leave residue scorch marks, I feel like that if they do disappear, it takes a little bit longer. Because they would come in after a vanquish, and they would see like, oh, scorch marks, I see this. Or like when in the mausoleum, you can see the remnants of, even though nobody was vanquished there, when she faked Cole's death, there was still scorch marks just from the fire. I think that's more remnants of the fire than the demon itself, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Chapter 5. So Nisha is with Leo again, and she does not like Leo's plan, but she wishes him luck anyway. He's like, I know what I must do. So Leo, this is where Leo drives off. I'm like, whose car is he using? He does not have a car. I mean, he could be using one of the sisters' cars. They should all be there. All 3 of them have cars at this point. He could pick in one of those.
Has he ever driven in any episode ever then?
No, he's never driven. He's never had a car. The only time he's got a car was in Via con Leos when they were getting that old truck that he wanted to repair.
So, but when he was a handyman coming in and out, he wasn't carrying his heavy box of tools around with him.
He probably orbed across the corner, across the walkway, and then turned the corner. It's like,
in which.
Yeah, because
he's had 60 years or 70 years to learn to drive, so we presume that he is breaking the law, but but he's desperate.
He probably knows how. He just doesn't have any legal documents anymore.
Yeah.
But he drives off to this black magic market, which is like a seedy, off the beaten path, mortal connection to the magical world. So this exists in the mortal world. If people turn down there, they could happen upon it. They could get magical things, and it's like, ooh.
Have you ever read Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere?
No, but I do. I've heard of it.
It's sort of set in London, and there's all these magical realms, but they're all in full view of people. But because they're homeless people, no one notices them. It's kind of like a political thing, So I feel like this hidden black market, this magic market is like the hidden market in Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere. That's what it reminded me of.
I can see that. So he's in there, and he just kind of sulks around, finds the clues. He goes to where he was instructed to go, and Leo meets with Xandra. And Xandra is one of Leo's very first charges after he first became a Whitelighter. So this is way back in his supernatural inception. So she was a rebellious witch, and she turned her back on whatever destiny she was supposed to have in lieu of personal gain. She's like, I'm going to use my magic to do what I want. I'm not going to do all this crazy witch, prissy Whitelighter stuff. Ugh. So Leo loans her this book called Mortar's Book of Magic, and it's an extremely rare tome that's guarded at magic school. It's the only one that's left in existence, and she wants to do a spell of it. So he gives it to her, and she gives him a sliver of unicorn horn in exchange.
The Mortar's Book of Magic, is Mortar mentioned any time in the series, or is this a new person?
It's an original thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
and obviously Xandra's. original. So presumably she's from the 1940s then, if it's
Right, because he died in 1942, so yeah, it had to be 43, 44 maybe.
she does the Bewitched reference. She does a hand gesture from Bewitched. I mean, I have seen Bewitched, but I don't quite remember that hand gesture. But I presume if the Bewitched fans listening, if there are, would be familiar with that reference.
Yeah, I'm not sure. What did she say? What did it say? What she did exactly?
She sort of put her hands to her face and kind of like, you know that thing where you put your hands to your face and you make goggles? Something like that. I don't know exactly because I don't know I could have looked it up, I guess, but
I've watched Bewitched, but it's been a long time. So I mostly remember the little nose twitch.
Exactly, yeah.
And Piper does do that in Which Way Now, the little bewitched nose twitch. But that's the only thing I can think about from the show. She says that the sliver of the unicorn horn holds enough pure magic to perform one spell. Because when the day the magic died, they had a full unicorn there to draw from, but now they just got a little piece of horn. So use it wisely.
Okay, on to chapter 6, I think.
Yeah.
The man entering Phoebe's room reminds Phoebe of Cole, but it's 10 times hotter. I'm just trying to think who would play this guy in 2006. But,
yeah.
It's probably one of those reality. You know the way they started casting guys from like Leslie and who's the guy Phoebe marries in season 8? They were all sort of
Dex, yeah,
semi-actors, I think is the word, or they were known from reality shows
for being pretty. Yeah.
The demon offers her a martini, but Phoebe is on guard. The demon kisses Phoebe, and she gives into it. But she has a plan. She's not being a freebie. She has a plan. Phoebe is flooded with a premonition of horribly wrong images, but she takes it out on the demon. She slaps the smug look off his face. Meanwhile, Paige rips a button from her vest and throws it at the barrier, looking for a weak spot. I mean, I hope Paige is not wearing her season 8 top, because there's not a lot to that top.
There's nothing much underneath. If you peel off those buttons,
Yeah, you don't see the season 8 promo picture is what I mean.
Different kind of show, yeah.
Finally, a button made through the barrier after many tries. Paige checks Frick and Frack to see if they're still as oblivious as they have been, and she orbs out of the small hole in the barrier, but reforms right in front of Frick, who is the female of the species. Frick is ready and blasts Paige unconscious apathetically against the barrier. Meanwhile, back to Piper. She's quite proud of having blown up everything inside. It's just everything is just dust.
I had enough power to do that, huh?
However, the cell bars are glow red and then back to normal. So the thing she needs to blow up is impermeable. Impregnable, I should say. Piper tries not to laugh as a demon enters, who looks like a cliche nerdy scientist. He introduces himself as Dr. Gnivik and informs Piper that they have already begun experimentation. Now, I was thinking, who do we play this role? Because I think if you get the wrong actor playing Dr. Gnivik, this is, if you have one of those season 8 baddies, this is going to not go well. And I was thinking John Lithgow would be great for Dr. Gnivik.
Oh yeah. Because he's definitely a very quirky guy. He's kind of a comedic character, but also a very scary character. You have to have both.
Yeah.
And I can see John Lithgow being both of those really well.
Because Gnivik is, for me, is the most over-the-top villain we've had in the books in terms of the sort of the comedy and preposterousness of him, that you really need an actor who's going to flick, what's the word? Be able to switch on the terror and off the terror again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really fun villain. Chapter 7. Leo returns home from the black market and tells Nisha that this unicorn sliver packs enough magic to perform a power of 3 spell. So not just any spell. He can perform a power of 3 spell by himself with this unicorn horn piece of it. That's pretty impressive. Leo contemplates what he will do by the Book of Shadows. She's looking through the Book of Shadows. She's like, what spell should I do? What will be the best way to get past this Leo tells Nisha that a few days ago, Piper accidentally cast a spell that brought future Wyatt back. So we know where that was. That was Imaginary Fiends. So
I was going to ask you that, but I remember the episode, but I haven't really got the titles and the episodes matched up yet in my head, having only seen them once.
sure. Yeah, so that's episode 20 of season 7.
Okay.
And so remembering that he saw adult Wyatt because Piper conjured him, it gave him the idea to call both of his sons in that same way. He's like, I'm going to bring Wyatt and Chris now, and they can help me get the sisters back. So Leo finalizes his potion. He chants his spell, which is an alternate version of what Piper used. So I guess after because she made that one up on the spot, I guess she probably put it in the Book of Shadows after that because she liked it. So after he performed the spell, he sees a cauldron with his potion, and like ice forms on top of the cauldron. And then on the ice, Leo sees the images of a grown Wyatt and Chris fighting demons. But curiously, there is a dark-haired girl with them that reminded him of Piper. Ooh. So the two brothers are fighting with a girl. Who could that be? Well, the images of his sons then burst into orbs, and soon enough they were summoned in front of him. They were there. Wyatt and Chris recognize their father and are confused. They're like, Dad? Wyatt says that Leo has to send them back. She's like, you have to send us back because Mel, and he stops. So we know this is going to be Melinda. This is their sister.
Yes, indeed. You will find out in season 9, folks.
Yes, although she is. Do you remember the finale, the Forever Charm finale? She is in that episode.
Oh, is she there? Oh, that's the is that the one that Kaylee Kuko is minding?
No, that's Phoebe's daughters.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's so many kids running around with that.
Yeah.
I can't remember which is
It's been a montage. But there's a montage in Forever Charmed where Piper and Leo are giving lunches. There's another kid that playing a teenage Wyatt, and then the Chris, and then there's a little girl in that scene as well. So
okay,
you do see her in Forever Charmed. But that's crazy cool. So it's nice that they reference the daughter. Leo fills Wyatt and Chris in about what's happened to the girls. They're missing, and he asked them if they could remember anything like this happening in their history around the time that he fell from grace. And they're like, no, sorry, we don't remember anything like this. So Leo then surmises that either this event didn't happen in their future, or summoning them to this time is exactly what he did in their future. So Wyatt tries to make sense of this time travel logic, but Chris tells him not to bother because it's confusing. He's like, just focus on Mom being in trouble. She's like, Mom's in trouble. Let's focus on that and let's get this done. This is funny to me. Nisha thinks Chris is cute. She gets a little crush on him, but then she's like, oh wait, you're that baby whose diaper I just changed. This is weird. Ew.
Yeah, I think Phoebe did that joke about it in season 6,
Yeah.
didn't she, or Paige, or one of them.
It's like, yeah, I didn't hit on you, did I? So he's like, no. I'm like, actually, you did. Don't tell him. So Leo introduces Nisha to the boys, and she has the most adorable introduction ever. I think she's just so goofy and so awkward. It's so funny. Let me see what she says. Seeing as how your sons don't even know me, or did something worse happen? Am I dead? Wait, I don't want to know. So she's trying to figure out her future. She's like, no, don't tell me what happens to me. And then she's like, I should listen to Mom and Dad and become a lawyer. I don't want to deal with this. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. So she's just so awkward, and it's hilarious, and I laugh.
We don't see Nisha again in season 9, so I'm just surprised. We do see other magic school teachers, but I'm just surprised. Maybe Paul didn't bring, he's created the character and she survives the book, spoiler. But so I'm just surprised he's gone to the trouble of creating her and not bring her back. So I'm not sure why he didn't really. She's sort of.
I mean, he could have. Yeah. I guess because the books themselves, I guess they kind of wanted them to be self-contained in a way. Maybe he didn't at the time he wrote this. He didn't know he was going to do the comics, but again, you could always draw from the books.
Yeah.
So
also, Chris mentions Escher paintings, and I feel like Chris's entire life is like an Escher painting. He's like, there's no other, if you're to track his timeline, you'd be in a sort of infinite loop, I think, at this stage.
Right. Yeah.
On page 90, Leo mentions the house defenses, and then he sort of gets vague about it. I mean, does the house have defenses? I know the book is defenses, but
I mean, there is the whole Nexus thing. They do mention the Nexus briefly, but I don't see the house.
I mean, there's nothing stopping a demon planting a bomb outside and blowing it up. So it must have
No,
some kind of defenses, I guess. Just from that prevents that, if you like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there was the whole. No, is there a wiki? There was all the defenses there, but that was because the circumstances changed. I can't imagine there's a whole demons got in there all the time. They just shimmered in there or flamed in there all the time. So there's not really much.
They had the crystals they sometimes would put down, and I'm sort of
Sure, and they could use that as a safeguard. They've done that. They've done that perimeter around the house before with the crystals. So there's that. That's like the only thing I could think of that they would ever do. Leo asks Nisha to watch the house while he takes the boys on their mission. And then Wyatt and Chris remind Leo that they have no leads. Like, okay, we're going on a mission, but what are we doing? Where are we going? So they're like, oh yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they literally have no clues as yet.
Right.
Chapter 8. Back in her cell once more, Paige was exhausting her options. For kick, she tries to orb Frack's dagger to her. Success! Paige throws the dagger at the cell barrier, expecting it to bounce back at her. Instead, the dagger is stopped mid-air on the barrier and soon dissolves it. Acting quick, Paige orbs out. Just before the other dagger from Frick decapitates her. Phoebe, meanwhile, feels great after slapping the demon. She knew the images of it. She knew the images she saw of them in sexy passion were manufactured and planted, which she did not appreciate. The demon introduces himself as Cameron, Cam for short, and asks Phoebe if she'd like to experience those sexy visions for real. Ooh.
What a creeper.
Phoebe does have a strong attraction to him, though, but she believes it's some kind of power or pheromone manipulation.
I was thinking of like Dakin from X-Men because he has that pheromone manipulation, and that's how I reminded of. He's like, oh, he's just, seducing her artificially. Crazy.
Yeah, it's like in those lab experiments where they pump pheromones in with the rats or the whatever, and they try to see if if they recouple or whatever. Cam tells Phoebe he's a prisoner too, and that everything here is fake. Phoebe presses on the fake firewall and goes through. Well,
I guess Cam did tell her that that's the way out. He's like, you can go that way.
And Phoebe does believe that he's a prisoner, so that's why she's able to sort of break through the illusion. Unfortunately, that's all we see of Cam. I was expecting him to turn up and do a self-sacrifice later and redeem himself, but
he does come back a little bit later, but doesn't do anything there either. Yeah. So,
with Piper, Dr. Gnivik restores all the broken glass and the trash room to its initial state. The blood vials are back, and he tells Piper he's heating her and her sister's blood. He tells Piper he wants to uncover what it is about the Varan line that makes them so powerful. What does it mean to be charmed? He despairs not being able to have a sample of Prue's blood.
See, that is a cool concept. I love that idea. Like, where does the power come from on like a very detailed scale? And I think that's such a cool thing to explore. Yeah. I love that.
And I feel like this guy is the right guy to do it because it's not going to be just. It's like magic science he does, not procedural science. So like his methods are mad, but they probably have to be to work on their blood, I guess. Mm-hmm. Piper tries to blow up the vials again, but nothing happens. Dr. Gnivik says while she's in the lab, he controls when they can access their powers and actually controls their powers themselves. He freezes Piper, but it's a lie. She's still conscious. And he admits later that you may have detected my lie. But once Piper is frozen, though, Dr. Gnivik injects her with a chemical. Phoebe and Paige, having just escaped incarceration, arrive in Piper's cell at the same time. They are frozen as well, vulnerable to whatever experiments the mad scientist has planned.
Yeah, and the way that Piper was frozen here, because she's like stuck in place but she's still aware, it was very similar to how she was frozen in the Crimson Spell when her power reversed on her. I thought that was kind of cool to notice that parallel.
Just on chapter 8 there, I really love that the inner monologue of each sister is totally different. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Paige's inner monologue is hilarious. Like she's got that sarky, narky kind of even in her own inner monologue, which is really cool.
Right.
And then I love Piper. Just she's such the like seasoned veteran at this stage. She's like using reverse psychology. Yeah, I don't care. Look, I told you I don't care about your plan. And like
Yeah.
and he keeps telling her more about the plan. So
It's so fun. So true to the characters. I love it. All right, chapter 9. Chris is scrying and is annoyed that Leo is looking over his shoulder. He's like, you don't even double check my work. I'm scrying. Let me do it. Nisha brings cookies and milk, and then Chris balks at it. He's like, how old do you think we are? But Wyatt's like, ooh, cookies.
Kevin, is this Chris's first, and I will use the word canonical appearance since the end of season 7? Or season 6, rather?
He was in season 7 for it was during the Vision Quest where when Phoebe had him go in there and kind of had like a vision of Chris come to him.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's that one, but that's the only time since he left. Yeah, but this is Chris's first book. I forgot to mention that. So yay for Chris's first book.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's been on holiday in about 11 books before this.
Right. It's like he doesn't exist in these books apparently, but here he is out of nowhere.
Do you mean baby Chris or adult Chris? By the way,
both.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He hasn't appeared in baby form or grown up form in any of the books so far until this one. So that's kind of crazy. But but I love that he's like, because Nisha brings cookies and he's like, how old do you think we are? And he is very dry, like he's like, he has to keep appearances. And Wyatt's just like, I'm happy-go-lucky. I love all the stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, I said at the time, like the best thing to happen to Brian Krause in the series was having to act against Drew Fuller, because like,
yeah,
he had become so much part of the furniture by the end of season 5 that season 6 he was able to just be angry and snippy, and have a guy who just was in his face the whole time was just great for Brian.
Oh yeah, fun times. So Wyatt and Chris suggest tracking down Benzimar, which is somebody from their future. He is a 600-year-old demon snitch in their time who has been a very useful resource. They've used him lots of times to just get information. So Wyatt and Chris, like, we could probably find him in this time too. He'll be younger, but you can still find him here. So they orb Leo to a bar called the Apple, and they leave Nisha to guard the house. So like, if Zanku comes, just run away. It's fine. So the trio walks up to Benji, is his nickname, and they offer him catnip as a gift because Benji is like addicted to catnip. And they like just try to egg on, like, hey Benji. And this is a room full of demons, so they like don't look. So Wyatt and Chris grab him and they orb them all upstairs to like the secret room to talk. Benzema reveals that there are rumors that Dr. Ganivik is experimenting on the Charmed Ones, and that some witch named Xandra says Leo owes her something. So he definitely is in the loop with the rumors. He hears lots of stuff.
Sitting at that bar all day, that's some network.
I guess. Just listening to all the chatter, you know? And it's funny because they say that all the demons know that all the demons know that he snitches on them, but they don't want to know. They don't always know what he says. They're guys kind of on edge.
I feel like in the show, this guy would be like stabbed after 5 minutes. By
he would be killed. He would be killed so fast.
Yeah.
So Leo and the boys orb back to the manor, but are attacked by Nisha because they come in and Nisha's like, she gets scared, so she like throws some kind of blast at them. She's surprised, but she accidentally breaks the grandfather clock in the process. So here is this would be number 7 if we went in order.
Yeah, okay.
This is the first. Actually, no, because it was broken in as Puck would have it too, because it was broken in that book previously.
They all count.
Yeah. So, but yeah, in the books, this is the second time that's been broken in the books. Wyatt snaps his fingers, and spoonful of sugars are back to normal. He's like, whoop, just reverse that. That never happened. Where have you been all these other years when we needed, when we would hire someone to fix it? Because they can't afford to keep fixing that thing. Leo informs his sons who Xandra is, and admits that he actually tore some of the more dangerous spells out of the book before he gave it to her. So they're like, oh, that's why she's mad at you.
Okay.
That's why she's coming for you.
Do you know, I actually missed that bit when I read it. I was wondering why she was mad. I actually, both times I read the book, I missed that.
Yeah, he did. I think he mentioned it too in that chapter when he gave it to her, but then he mentions it here too. So yeah, she was looking for a particular spell. We don't know what one, but apparently the one she wanted was one of the ones he tore out.
Okay, yeah.
Cheating her. Upon hearing them discuss Dr. Gnivik, Nisha's like, oh, that guy, I've met him in the rainforest last year. He's a demon? Oh, well, that's news to me. He was very scoffy. He did scoff a lot. So maybe
I feel like it's kind of obvious he's a demon. That there's no way he's disguising himself in polite company.
Right. I mean, just he's kind of a character for sure. But she's shocked, and he's like, oh, okay, well, I guess he's a demon. Leo plans to start a rumor so we're going to lure Dr. Gnivik out. So he's like, we're going to start a rumor that a student at magic school has discovered a formula to turn lead into gold as bait, because that's all the scientists want to know. They want that formula. So we're going to put that out there and then see if he comes. And then they're like, Chris, you will pose as a student because you look young.
Cue close-up of Drew Fuller giving Leo his death stare.
Yeah, like Luigi death stare from Chris. He's like, are you kidding me?
With a slow, sad nod of his head,
Like, how dare you? He's like, fine, I'll do it.
Kevin, in chapter 9, the ultimate is referenced. I'm not sure who buys it. Probably Wyatt.
I think, yeah, one of them.
Is that the battle in season 8? The end of season 8?
Yeah. Yes, they kind of refer to the ultimate battle, but he stops himself from saying anything. But yeah, they definitely are doing a reference to that.
Okay, here's a question. Did this show you how out of the loop I am? Sex in the City, The Next Generation. Has that actually happened or yet?
That was made up for this because they're trying to be like, we're from the future. So in their future, they have a spin-off series.
I know that, but has there been a Sex in the City you
mean it hasn't happened since?
Yes.
I know they were talking about a new. I think there was actually. I don't know if it's called The Next Generation, but I think there was a new show.
Wasn't there a movie or something? No.
There's two movies, and then they have another show. Okay. But one of the girls, Kim Control, didn't come back.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's funny. That's never happened on Charmed. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, chapter 10. Oh, this is a short one. Okay, I'll give it as much energy as I can. Piper regains her senses, and Dr. Gnivik tells her he actually gave them a power suppressant and contemplates mass producing it to sell. I feel like he's like not the mass producing type scientist. He's like the blue skies type scientist, not the. He's more a Tesla than a Edison. This guy, but anyway.
Like, what should I name this? What should I name it? Oh, he's just such a comedic guy.
Yeah. The names are pretty good. Like, I have to have my name in it. Dr. Gnivik pulled down a screen and proceeded to reveal his evil plan. And I like the way, they have the old kind of film footage, like 5, 4, 3, and it's written backwards. And Piper's like, he's not even using film.
Yeah.
But by giving a presentation using footage that was taken by the demons who filmed The Sisters.
So now we know why they're filming them. He's making a movie to sell his scheme.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just part of the footage he needed for. For his presentation. I'm with you now. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, he's like, this is my evil plan. Watch it. You're in it.
Dr. Gnivik plans to discover what it is the sisters actually tap into when they use their powers, and then use that to determine how all witches use magic, and therefore find a way to control them.
Another very cool idea and insidious plan from a demon. I really like that. It's very smart.
It's definitely a new one. Phoebe and Paige regain their senses. Dr. Gnivik gets a phone call and leaves. Now, I feel like he wouldn't have a mobile. He'd have one of those, those pre-rotary phones you'd see in the 1920s and 30s. You lift one bit up to your ear. I feel like they'd have, and you just click the thing down.
Exactly.
I feel like he'd have one of them, not an actual sort of Nokia brick phone, But anyway, I'd say
I love that.
I'd say the prop guy would have probably done it differently. But anyway,
Sure.
the sisters free fall, and they're falling for a very long time. So something odd is up, and they end up on a staircase that leads to a maze. They decide they're not going to enter it, but the floor starts falling away behind them. So begrudgingly, they must enter it.
They have to go.
They are rats caught in a trap.
So chapter 11, Leo, Wyatt, and Chris arrive in a lecture hall where Chris will give his fake presentation. And this is like open to anybody. It's like attached to magic school, but also attached to the mortal world.
Can I ask you there, Kevin, is this the big room we see, that big wide open room with just chairs put in? Because in the TV season, especially season 8, everybody materializes into that room. That feels like it's the it's a nexus with a small end point where everybody can enter rather than some other unseen lecture hall.
Because I'm thinking of like a college kind of looking thing.
Yeah, I thought of that as well, but it's not really fitting in the style of magic school to have one of those tiered kind of modern halls.
Yeah, and to me, I don't know. I feel like it's something we probably haven't seen. If it is one of those things, it's probably something we never saw before.
Yeah, you're probably right there. It would be too messy just to bring in a load of chairs just for, for a quick.
Yeah, especially if you want something to be like official and you want press to come, and like they're trying to make this look very official, even though it's completely a ruse. But Chris is going to give this fake presentation. They have like the speech that was written by teachers that they kind of half-assed, and
they're just sort of wasting time. So just
and Chris is a little stage frighty. He's a little nervous about it,
which is funny.
Yeah. Half the audience is holographically projected by Wyatt, so half the audience isn't even real. It's just like Wyatt using his powers and showing off. And then they notice that someone who matches Dr. Gnivic's description is there with 2 burly bodyguards. Like, oh, we can't grab him like we thought. Oh, I guess the plan of attack now is to just like do your speech and then follow him out. So that's what they're going to try to do. During Chris's speech, Dr. Gnivic has a question. He's like, first of all, and he's like, yes, Dr. Gnivic. He's like, no, the G in my name is not silent. Say Gnivic or whatever. Gnivic, I don't know. Is it a silent? Is it a soft G? I don't know. But he's like calling out Chris for his drivel and declares him a fraud. None of these things you're saying make any sense. You are just pulling my leg. Good day, sir. I said good day. And so Dr. Gnivik leaves. Wyatt, Chris, and Leo furtively, sneakily follow him into like this portal, and they get inside.
Yeah, so they're on his trail, which is mission complete. There is a guy referred to. I think he's a magic school resident, Professor Sonorous. Is that somebody we've heard of before?
I don't think so. I know Mrs. Winterbourne. I know Mrs. Donovan. I don't know anybody named that Professor Centaurus. Mr. Monkey Shines was a gnome teacher. But yeah, there's not a lot of male teachers that I saw in magic school.
There's the young one. What's his name? He's just...
Ben. He was a student teacher.
Yeah. He wouldn't be professor at this stage, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On to chapter 12? Yeah.
Yes.
After aimlessly wandering the maze, Dr. Nivik appears to the sisters. The doctor says he's back, and it's time for the real testing to start. Piper pulls her sisters to the ground just as blades come spinning over their heads, so they do have to finish the maze. They just can't stand there. They smell cheese, and they decide that the cheese must be what they need to follow, not the Page's technique of just going right the whole time, which I think is a kind of a... I'm not sure if that's actually true, where you go right, you will get out of the maze. I feel like you'll end up in a dead end at some stage, but anyway.
Right.
But they decide to follow the cheese. Phoebe thinks that the maze is on autopilot, constantly changing, because they knew it was they had a brief glimpse of it from outside and it couldn't be this big. So Dr. Nivik is quite impressed and observes that was quite an astute statement. The maze disappears once they reach the center, where I think this is like a giant blob of cheese.
Yeah, still won't sit in there.
And they proceed to the final stages of experimentation. Piper's put back into the lab, but in what looks like an electric chair.
Yeah, she's got like little electrodes on her temples and things. And
Paige, however, I think she has the worst deal here. She's on a treadmill, which starts slow, but gradually getting faster and faster. Meanwhile, Phoebe is on an exam table under threatening-looking instrumentation.
Yeah, those medical instruments, oofta. But yeah, Paige just running for her life, I guess, over here. All right, chapter 13. Leo and the boys make their way to... They're in the underworld now. They went through the portal. They're in the underworld, and they're just they're searching around, and they make their way to these metal double doors that they assume is the lab, but they can't get in. And there are like little cameras watching them, but Wyatt's like projected like fake images on them. So Wyatt and Chris together start lightning bolting the thing. So they're doing like elder powers now together, trying to like lightning bolt the door down, but it just gets black and singes and nothing happens. The two brothers kind of rib on each other and they tease each other, which I thought was really fun.
Yeah, Chris accuses Wyatt of having a glass jaw. He says, "I only got knocked out once."
The banter in this is so cute, and Leo thinks it's cute too because he smiles at how amazing his sons grew up to be. He's like, "I love this." Very sweet. Cut to Dr. Gnivik and the sisters. The scientist explains that his experiments, like how they work, and how he is placing them in situations that will cause them to want to use their powers. Even though they can't, he has the serum, so they can't use their powers, but he knows they will try to use their powers, and every time they try, he gains more information about what they tap into, which is very crazy. And I would love to see the statistics on this because it's fascinating.
I feel like every 2 seconds, Paige is going to try orb.
She's like, I need to get out of this. I need to get out of this. Sweat. Yeah. Oh my God.
Chapter 14. Meanwhile, back at the manor, Nisha roams cleaning. She remembers taking a class called Modern Magic and that the lesson about the Warren line made the Charmed Ones minor celebrities.
So they were learning about them at magic school, which is, they talk about that in the series a bit, but it's cool that we got.
They're kind of like legends in their own lifetime, I feel, by this stage.
Yeah.
Nisha hears a knock at the door, and she's spooked that it might be a demon. However, it's just Daryl looking for Leo or the sisters. Nisha doesn't know who Daryl is, but hesitantly lets him in. But Daryl and Nisha immediately notice a woman running up the staircase to the manor, armed with a dagger. Daryl holds his gun up at the woman. The woman throws the dagger. Nisha pulls Daryl down and closes the door in the woman's face. Nisha deduces that the woman is Xandra. Xandra is attacking the outside door. Nisha grabs a broom and recites a protection spell she used to do in childhood. She sort of has to sweep towards the door, I think, to kind of as if brush away the danger. Nisha hands Daryl the broom and tells him to sweep around the door. Nisha begins to work on a potion while Daryl does the sweeping. There's a crash at the kitchen door. Daryl sweeps around there that shoves the door in Sandra's face as well. So she tried the other entrance and she still can't get in.
Yeah, it's cool though because just as Daryl was sweeping, the door magically kind of closed. I'm like, oh, all right. Even though it's Daryl's not using magic, the broom is enchanted enough that he can do it, which is pretty cool.
Meanwhile, in the attic, this Nisha completing the potion. Daryl runs up, telling Nisha that Xandra broke in through the conservatory. So eventually, this like the spell wears off, or he doesn't execute the broom in time.
And there's all that glass in there. It's like throw a rock through the window you're in,
But Nisha is ready. Xandra bursts into the attic, ready to presumably to. I don't know if she's looking for information or she's just going to kill them first. But I mean,
I don't know.
She's in a huff anyway. Nisha throws the potion onto her, and she's frozen in place. And Nisha says to Daryl that this will be for 24 hours, approximately.
So yeah, she's just frozen in the attic.
Chapter 15. Yeah.
Okay. Leo, Wyatt, and Chris decide, we can't break through the metal doors. Let's knock on the metal doors instead. Bell out of order. Please knock. So they knock, and then a demon that looks like Cole answers. So this is the Cam demon that kissed Phoebe. He's like, hello? But then he's immediately decked in the face by Chris. He just punches him out.
Oh, that's Cam, is it? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Because they say he looks like Cole. That's how you know.
Okay.
But yeah, Chris punches him out. And there have been cameras all over, but Wyatt projects his glamour onto those as well, so they remain unseen. Leo suggests they follow the wiring that's on those cameras. They kind of backtrack, and they follow those wires to the surveillance room. And once they get there, Leo punches the demon in the face inside there, knocks him out. They're just punching all the demons. The trio then investigate the screens there, because they see all the cameras, and then Leo, they kind of flipping through. Leo notices Piper in the corner of one of the camera feeds. He's like, oh, stop! Let's go find that room. Back in the lab, Phoebe gets out of her table, her bound hands. She kind of like wiggles her way out and gets out. And she starts throwing these medical instruments at Dr. Gnivik. She's like, take this, and this, and this. While she's throwing a scalpel, actually flew into Piper's chair, behind Piper's chair. And Dr. Gnivik goes to subdue Phoebe. He's like, how did you get out of your bonds? I'm going to strap you back down. And so while the scientist is dealing with Phoebe, Piper kind of reaches to get back in her chair, and she grabs the scalpel and kind of cuts herself out of her chair. Paige, probably a sweaty mess at this point because she's still running on that treadmill. She's like, I can't do it any longer. I'm tired here. Piper gets in a brief knife fight with Dr. Gnivik. They're like, hiya. But she's like, oh, your big knife is much bigger than my little scalpel. Oh, I was like, I surrender. But she managed to grab it. She grabbed another scalpel too, so she had two.
Don't bring a scalpel to a knife fight, as they say. Exactly
the saying. So she's like, I surrender, but then she like flings a little scalpel on Phoebe's thing. She's like, Phoebe, it's the thing there. And so Dr. Gnivik mentions something about his benefactor. He's like, my benefactor would not like it if you are free. And he lunges at Piper. And so she's like, and so she runs and like runs away, and she kind of slams into the force field that's around Paige. So because Paige, her treadmill is like in a force field that's keeping her locked in there. So as Piper moves out of the way, he kind of crashes behind Piper into the force field that has Paige in there, and Piper manages to free her from the treadmill. So like it kind of like sets off the barrier, and she like breaks the force field, and she grabs Paige off. So Paige is no longer running, thank goodness. She's dying, so she just like literally just falls to the floor. She can't stand, she can't walk. She's like, I'm just gonna sit here. Water, please, whatever you're like. As Paige falls to the floor, Dr. Gnivik tries to strangle Piper. He like grabs her, puts her hands around her, but Piper, she takes her nails and starts digging her nails into his hands, which makes Dr. Gnivik let go, and so she's free. Phoebe did manage to cut herself free with the scalpel that Piper left her on the table, and so she comes and whacks Dr. Gnivik with a metal tray. So there's a really cool action in this scene. Like, this is really written. It's crazy. It's fun. And they're doing this all without their powers. So this is a feat. This is all like normal fighting. Piper and Phoebe move Dr. Gnivik onto the treadmill now and force him to run in his own experiment. They're like, you get on there. So he's running on the treadmill. He's stuck on there. The force builds back up. The treadmill gets faster and faster. They start pushing buttons on the monitor or whatever, and it gets faster and faster. Dr. Gnivik crashes into the force field surrounding it and bursts into flames. So he's vanquished by his own means. Woo! What a scene.
He's vanquished, I think you meant to say.
Vanquished, yes. I love that.
I'm glad it's a book that doesn't finish with Piper blowing up the battery. It's
right. It's very unique, very clever. It's really fun. So sisters decide to find this other lab now because they know they're out, they're free, but they realize that they have to find that power suppressing serum because they can't let that sit here. If that gets out, it can cause a lot of problems for them and chaos for them. And they're powerless right now, and they probably don't want to feel that again like this. It's scary. Phoebe did steal a key from Dr. Gnivik before they put him on there. She grabbed a key from him, so she had this key to the lab. Just then, the sisters are greeted by this benefactor that the doctor scientist was talking about earlier. And he's like congratulating them on a job well done. But you know who it is? It's Zanku! Dun, dun, dun. Oh my gosh, he put Dr. Gnivik up to this? Crazy.
So, chapter 16, Zanku's been revealed. Zanku banters with the Charmed Ones. Now, I'd love if actually, which do they? I think they Paul should have done, is he? If Zanku had been calling him Nivik and the Charmed Ones were like, it's Nivik,
I know, yeah, right.
Even Zanku was
She is not
saying,
silent.
yeah, it just would have been very fun. I'd say that sort of would have happened if it had been on TV. They would have.
It would have been real fun. Yeah.
He banters with the Charmed Ones before sending an army of demons after them to kill them. He's going straight for the jugular here.
Yeah.
Zanku asks if they've any last words. Piper says Leo. Zanku scoffs, but Leo, Wyatt, and Chris surprise Zanku by appearing behind the demons. The brothers orb Leo to the sisters. Meanwhile, the demons attack, and Wyatt raises his blue force field bubble over his entire family. Just like the little baby.
It's so cool seeing the grown-up Wyatt do the same powers we see young Wyatt do. I'm like, this is amazing.
Phoebe gives Piper the key that she stole, and Chris remotes orbs Piper and Leo to the surveillance room. Piper and Leo find the manor room on the screens and note its location. They find it and go through. I think they go. Is it reversed through the fire portal?
Yeah, so they kind of go through. They go to the room that Phoebe was in. They go through there and then into another room. So it's like kind of
okay.
Yeah.
Piper and Leo find the serum. Piper pauses and debates about keeping it to become mortal and live in peace with Leo. However, Leo tells Piper, "Cop on to yourself, Piper. It's never going to happen." That he was born human, he will die human, but magic will always be part of their lives. They have to accept magic and whatever comes their way and just live. Besides, they'll be dead the moment they stop becoming witches because someone's going to kill them. So they're sort of stuck being witches, I think. But they have to accept it, of course. Yeah. Piper and Leo kiss before Piper pours the serum down the drain and absolutely just destroys the lab just because she can.
Let out some anger here. All right, chapter 17, the last chapter. Wyatt and Chris orb the family back to the manor. Nisha and was like, "Oh, you're back. Hey, your friend Daryl stopped by. Such a nice guy. Whatever happened to the conservatory? I know there's a big mess of glass and broken glass there. Don't worry about that. It's a long story. I'll explain it later."
Does she just go through the door at the halfway up the stairs to get back to magic school?
Yeah, back to magic school. Mm-hmm. So Phoebe wonders why Chris and Wyatt let Zanku get away, because I guess while they were doing the thing, they just let Zanku get away, and they're like, it's because he has an important part to play in this timeline. So they know their history, they know their future, and so they can't disrupt things too much. So that's why they let Zanku go, because he's still got some stuffs. He's got some Nexus goings-ons. Piper, Leo, and the sisters all hug Wyatt and Chris goodbye. So sweet. Piper reads the spell that Leo wrote to send them back to their time. Nisha comes back with the young Wyatt and Chris. She's like, she goes to magic school, comes back with the young ones, and then it goes back to magic school. She's like, okay, here's your babies. Goodbye. Piper and Leo joke about what's for dinner because they're like, you want to go get that Chinese food?
I actually feel like a Chinese right now. Wouldn't mind.
So they joke about what's for dinner, and then Phoebe and Paige come back down there like, hey, we just got back from the attic. There's some weird frozen woman in the attic. Why is that? Do we need to ask Nisha? Who is this lady? And that's the end. It ends like that. It was a really funny little button there. So what are your general thoughts, your final thoughts of the book?
I actually liked the book a lot, but I liked it more on my second reading than my first reading, because obviously it's a Roditis book. Paul Roditis. Is it Roditis? I sort of always expect him to produce the goods, and he does here, but I wasn't that as impressed with Dr. Nivik as I was second time round. I felt he didn't need to be as over the top, so that was kind of gnawing away at me. Now, also the Leo, Chris, and Wyatt are on the cover, so I kind of expected them to be the main part of the book, but it sort of alternates back between Chris and the three girls. So, I was a little bit disappointed first time, but now I see the book is a lot better balanced than on first reading. So yeah, I do rate it. I don't think it's his best book, but I do appreciate that it's a season 7 book. I love the fact that he's just set something clearly in the timeline and that satisfies every fan.
I did think this was a fun story, and I do like, because I would have liked to see more of them being like the primary people, the primary protagonists. Yeah. But then again, people do kind of want the sisters too, so I do like that it is balanced. But I would have liked a little bit more. It could have been a little bit longer, maybe even. But what we did get was really nice stuff. I mean, it's definitely clear that he knows the show, he knows the lore, he knows the characters, and it was really reverent of them, which I did appreciate.
Definitely, yeah.
And I think people really love this book too because it is a different take. It is seeing Leo and Wyatt and Chris in a role that they might have not had the chance to. Like, people would have loved this as an episode. I think they would have
Oh
been
yeah,
like all about it.
definitely. This is one of those books that just feels like an episode. It's the cliffhangers are all kind of highs and
And it's crazy too that both Leo and the Charmed Ones are powerless for the majority of this book. So we get to see how they work without powers for a long time, and then see how the next generation would like go on missions, because we never got to see them like do real mission works. We see them very vaguely use the powers in the series. So
But I feel like though as well, if they do bring Charmed back, that you can't have it as like two brothers and a sister. Charmed is three girls, so they would have to tweak the future some way to just to have three girls as the fulcrum of the series.
I don't know. I guess if you want to mix up the formula a little bit, you could.
I'm not sure TV executives would do that though. They just want their three
Right.
women.
A major theme of this book is the conflict between wanting to do your part in a fight, being at a disadvantage, i.e., not having powers, versus having somebody with an advantage, having powers, wanting to keep you out of it and safe. So there's that dynamic, and this is something that's very common in media in general, but in Charmed it's happened quite a bit too. We see it with Prue and Andy. We see it in Phoebe and Cole when Cole became human, Paige and Henry, and Piper and Leo here. So there's always going to be that struggle when someone has powers and they're worried about someone who doesn't have powers. The person who doesn't have powers wants to be in the middle of the battle, but they don't want you there. It's commonly in the show, and I think they did showcase it really well and accurately.
It sort of mirrored
So
as
like
well
that.
with Nisha and Daryl as well. They're kind of in a similar
Yeah,
situation.
exactly. So I liked it a lot.
I give it a B.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's about right. I would put it somewhere. I'd probably be a little bit nicer, maybe B plus.
Yeah.
But because I think it is a unique take, and I do enjoy my time with it a lot. I just, there's a dirty thing where, like, when Phoebe was with that Cam in the room, it says part of her did want to taste the drink and the demon as well. Like, oh my god. And I love how Leo notices that Wyatt can telekinetically orb without vocal command, because Paige always has to say it, but because he was just orbing without saying anything, which is cool.
Yeah, they're very powerful, all right, the sons, particularly Wyatt, which we know from, I guess, evil Wyatt, but we sort of had taken over the planet at one stage in the evil alternative future.
Chris said Wyatt uses his magic to impress and pick up girls, which made me laugh too. Like, oh my goodness.
Yes, personal gain.
Personal gain, whatever. All right, so that's that. That's all I have for my real thoughts, but let's move on to Put That in My Canonical Hat.
Canonical.
The segment where we take the story and determine what is and what is not true to the narrative of the show. So do you have anything for this?
Oh yeah, I mean, my approach for these books is they're all canonical, but sometimes you really gotta squeeze that square peg into the round hole, and things. So some stories would need really to be rewritten almost from scratch to fit in, but this one just it's perfect. It fits in.
Yeah.
It's almost exact day it fits in, let alone like all the characters. Like, I often wonder about season 7 Phoebe, where she is. It's kind of hard to work out, but otherwise I'm sort of happy with everything, really.
Nice. Yeah, I have some notes. I mean, this is stuff that I think I like that they mentioned, because I mentioned if there's something that ties back to the series too, I might like to mention it. So when Leo says he doesn't want to force Wyatt to heal everything, I thought that was very accurate to what they were trying to do, because Piper said the same thing in season 7. Once they knew that Wyatt could heal, they're like, I don't want to traumatize him by having him heal all of us every time.
That's good, Chip.
So I did appreciate that. I love that we're giving context of Leo falling from grace, becoming human, and taking over at magic school. They say that he is headmaster at magic school too, so that's great. Um, Kyle, Brody, Prue, and Andy are mentioned.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
This is not. Here's something that's not canon for me is when they say that Leo drives off in his car. His car. If they said that he took one of the girls' car, then it would be just fine. But they say his car, and that's not right.
Yeah, the cars are where they always fall down. They
They
get the color
can.
of the car wrong, or they get the driver of the car wrong.
I imagine the black magic market would be very similar to the demonic market that we see in Baby's First Demon.
Yeah, I think I sort of imagine it as the same thing, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
although it's different place, obviously.
Right, one's demonic, one's in a mortal realm, but still, it's essentially like the same kind of job, the same kind of tasks. Okay, here's something I liked because they said, when Chris was concerned about Leo looking over his shoulder when he was scrying, he was being concerned that people are double checking his magical practices, and I think that really ties into his inferiority complex with Wyatt because he's always the one that's like overlooked for Wyatt. So I'm like, all right, wants his own identity.
I like how matter of fact Chris is, though. He let the person do that, and then you think he's annoyed, but he's actually not annoyed as you think he is. He's just he's
right.
actually
It's a front. He has the cynical kind of like mask that he puts on,
Yeah, because when he's trying to blow up the doors there, and Leo's telling him to stop, he sort of stops and he says, "Oh yeah, that didn't work." Like, 'cause he doesn't get frustrated. Like, he's very matter of fact about things. He's on a mission, and he's not. He's detached but quite sensible.
Yes. I think that his character is very spot on to what we see. I think Wyatt too, because Wyatt's just like a golden retriever.
yeah. Wyatt's probably sort of more vague character, kind of goofier, kind of
especially in his good version.
Yeah,
he's like Uncle Coop. Oh.
Yeah. When he came back, I think in episode 7, I didn't actually know who it was at first. I didn't recognize him without his evil haircut. Who's that guy? He looks familiar.
Yeah. Okay, here's a question for you because I think like I brought it up before and other things, but Charmed rule is that when they go to the past, they don't usually have access to their powers. Wyatt and Chris have powers in the past, and they always have in the series. So why do you think that is? Do you think that's something that they evolve over time, or do you think that they? I don't know.
Yeah, it does seem to be an error. I mean, and it doesn't quite tally with they both exist in that timeline because Chris hasn't been conceived by the time he goes back. You could say they're more powerful in the future, but still, I don't really have an explanation for it. But maybe the rules of magic change in the future. We know what happens to the elders in the comics without spoiling that. So like the ground rules kind of change a bit.
True.
I don't really have a proper explanation, but it is frustrating when they do get that wrong, I admit as well.
Yeah. I don't think it's like completely wrong because they have done it in the series. I just wish they would have like told us why they can use the powers in the past.
Yeah.
Because the charmed ones and every time they go to the past they can't. So I wonder what it is that changed in their future. That would be a cool story to tell.
Yeah, I think that just has to be left to the imagination at the moment, I guess.
Right. So Phoebe makes a reference to Witch Wars, and then she talks about Survivor too. So both Nisha and Phoebe talk about Witch Wars in this book.
Survivor is an actual show, was it?
Survivor's an actual show.
Yeah. I thought
and
it was.
actually, what's funny about that? It's funny about that is when Witch Wars aired, the episode Witch Wars, it was beat out by Survivor. Survivor was more popular than Witch Wars at the time.
Oh, yeah. But I love at the end of the Witch Wars, you can tell Alyssa Milano hates reality TV. She goes, "Stop watching this crap." She basically says that, like it's like an after school moment.
Yeah.
Like, do something with your lives. This stuff isn't what TV's about.
And I think that's pretty much the whole commentary of that episode because I think this is a real drama, real narrative show, and so this is at the height of all those reality shows, and there was kind of saying like that's not quality TV. You should be watching us, which has stories. And,
because TV production. I mean, when reality TV came along, sort of around the year 2000, it meant TV companies could make lots of hours of TV on the cheap. That's why reality TV exists, because it's on the cheap. So whereas Charmed is an expensive show, and yet. But I feel like is it on the Warner Brothers network at this stage?
It was on the WB, yeah.
Yeah, because like that is a smaller network, so getting 4 million there is probably the equivalent of getting 10 million on whatever CBS or
Right.
it's lower audience, but I think the expectations are lower because it's a growing network.
Yeah. Paige caused the demon to burst into orbs by calling demon. That was not really accurate. When she said demon and it kind of exploded, I'm like, how did she do that?
Yeah, at least she's not throwing fireballs in this book, though.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That was real bad.
You can't, like, if you have these powers and you're growing the powers, you do really, as the writer, have to be very careful of expanding the powers, because it just changes. Even a tiny little, like a rule change in football or something, it can have a massive effect,
And you're right, Phoebe does have her levitation power in this novel, which she shouldn't have if this was in season 7. So that's one thing that's not quite right.
Yeah.
Let's see. A demon blinks instead of shimmering or flaming, because blinking is warlock power.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. These are the little things I haven't quite picked up on, but yeah, I agree.
The fandom says that Benzema refers to telekinetic orbiting as beaming as an error. I just think he was being like teasy, He's just like, oh, you're going to beam it. I don't think it was an error. I think it was that's showing how he's talking and how he's referring to them. Dr. Ginevik says Paige is a stepsister rather than a half-sister at one point.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on to rhyme time.
Should we try a spell?
Why not? Let's try a spell.
In the wind, I sing this rhyme. Bring death before me, before my time.
You've really got to lay off the rhyming, Prue.
Wonderful. Witty, but wordy.
I did the rhyme. I will do the time. Good night.
To summon future Wyatt and Chris. Now, who cast this spell? This is Leo. So, I like with Paul's books that he actually, they don't just jump into the rhyme. He explains how the physical part of the magic is done.
Yeah.
And he gets a bit more into the pure witchcraft, if you like, the craft part of it. Anyway, so mix ingredients in a cauldron, add a sliver of unicorn horn. The potion will turn from blood red into deep blue, swirl counterclockwise. The spell is to be cast when the swirling hits maximum speed. Now, I think there's a danger here. Is there of explosion as well?
Sure, yeah.
So Nisha does offer to, I think, protect Leo, but Leo's just on a mission. Help this father save his wife so they can lead a happy life. To ensure that this is done, sent from the future both his sons. I like line 1 and line 4. I'm not sure about happy life. It seems a bit twee, but it's not the worst one. It's not the best one. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay.
It rhymes. It's 4 lines. Not like pure poetry, but it still does the job. And this is an offshoot of the one that Piper used in Imaginary Fiends. And just for the fun of it, I'll read that spell too. So that was in that one. It said, "Help this mother understand the thoughts inside her little man. Though his mouth be quiet, let us hear his inner Wyatt." So
yeah, I like when they take a spell from the series and just deliberately tweak it rather than accidentally create a brand new spell.
All right. So the second spell was Nisha's protection spell. And it requires a broom to be swept in the direction of the evil at all times. Protect us from the coming dark with magic that provides a spark. The evil lurking while we sleep, I whisk away with a clean sweep. Yeah.
Why does Nisha put in a bit about the sleep? Because you have to be awake to do this, don't you? Or does the broom do its own work while you're asleep?
That is an odd line.
Maybe the broom sort of like while you're asleep, the broom is sort of sweeping itself, kind of.
Oh, I remember she says this was a spell she used when she was a childhood before bed. That's why.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's connected to her childhood.
Good point.
Mm-hmm. So she's kind of appropriated it for the situation, but yeah, now it makes sense. Yeah, it's fine. Nothing mind-blowing, but still decent and fun.
And she's a teacher of magic school, so I expect her to be able to, adapt spells on the spot in face of imminent death kind of thing.
Sure. All right.
So the third spell, it's just the 3 spells, is it? To return Wyatt and Chris to their own time. Okay. Suns in the future come to the past, seeing anew what once has passed. Return them now to whence they came, back when they left all now the same. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I mean, it's a shame. It's a shame when they go back to the future that Mel is lying dead at their feet. But
It's like, where'd you go? But yeah, I think that's probably my favorite one
at the end
of the book.
Yeah, no, I like this one. At the end of Charmed Forever, in that instance of time travel, everybody forgets, because it's so much time travel, that the implication is that everybody who's not the Charmed ones, or in 2006, forgets what happened. So do Wyatt and Chris forget this, or do they and just carry on as they were? Do they remember this adventure? Because in Charmed Forever, everybody forgets. Everybody who's not from 2006 forgets the adventure.
Yeah, and hard to say, because when they went to the 70s and they went back, they still remember the 70s adventure, and they remembered when they went to the future too. So maybe this is one that.
But does the person from the 70s remember the adventure?
Yes. Well, okay. So in that 70s episode, Patty and Grams did not have their memories erased or anything, so they should remember that adventure. Yes. Which is why in Forever Charmed, when Grams is like, "You're the charmed ones," I'm like, no, she should remember it from the 70s. They didn't do anything. So that's just within the series
it's
itself.
Like a spider's web, that episode, though, isn't it? It's just there's so many interactions to work with, and you can't just spend the whole episode going, but I remember this and you remember that.
Yeah, time travel is always confusing, and I say this in all the shows. Time travel goes crazy. But I'm going to say for this one, I would say that they do remember this. This is just part of their journey as witches and as being charmed.
I sort of feel like the people in the future would be the ones who should remember.
Right.
Because they're cause and effect, whereas the 2006 people would be the ones who forget, if anything.
Yeah.
But
just for fun, because we have that one that they used to return, I'm going to read the one from the Imaginary Fiends again that they used to return.
Oh, yes.
And this was a son in the future, a son in the past, seeing anew what once has passed. Return him now to whence he came, right when he left, all now the same. So they do have a lot of the same kind of structure.
They've actually improved that.
Yeah.
Because they changed the right when they left to back when they left. Which is actually a lot better.
It is better. Yeah. So, he improved that.
Do you think if Charmed were to be reborn with the OG crowd, say, fingers crossed, toes crossed, that witchcraft would be far more to the fore? There's so many series out there where the witchcraft is dark and demonic, and and it's, or is part of Charmed that they're three modern girls and who don't look like witches, and even when they do spells, there's sort of that disconnect with these beautiful modern women doing spells. What way do you think they'd go? Would they make the magic more traditional, darker, or would they stay lighter?
It's hard to say, because Charmed did do both. When it started, it was very much in the darker vein, and more of the traditional Wicca vein. And as it got season 5, it really went off the hills. So, I feel like they probably want to. I feel like they rebooted. They probably want to bring some of that darker vibes, I would think. Yeah, because that's the way a lot of the modern times are.
I mean, if you look at Sabrina, it's just this light, fluffy thing, and then suddenly Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is absolutely demonic, and it's like there's no connect between the two whatsoever. Which is good in a way, because they're their own distinct properties, and they're one's a comedy, one's a drama. But but if Charm does return, it will still be a drama. But I think I think though the creators will look at the dark part of the early seasons and say, look, that's when the Wiccan side was to the fore. And you wouldn't, you probably wouldn't ditch that. You'd renew that, I'd say.
Oh, now we have best baddie rankings.
You get frozen in fear.
Best baddie.
I actually put Dr. Ganivic as number 2 on my list.
So this is from book 31 onwards, is it?
Yes, just starting from the Queen's Curse onwards. He's between Ravaging Man-Beast from Demon Doppelgangers and Shax from Charmed Again, because Shax is the one that carried over. He's always winning, so he's right between those two. But because I feel like his experiments were getting down to something that may have not been explored and could have been really dangerous. And apparently, according to this book, he has the power of projection, which is exactly the same powers that Wyatt has and Billy has, which makes you pretty much do whatever you want. So that's a crazy powerful power. So I think he could have been a real threat and a real problem.
It's like he doesn't commit his powers to violence. He just he's got his, he's committed it to a different way, which is good as well. And he's not the sort of demon people can come in and kill either. He's got his own realm. He's got his own domain. By the way, you mentioned it there. Do you know what my favorite novel is?
What?
Of the 42 or 43 I've read now, actually, including the first novel, is Demon Doppelgangers. That is my favorite.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was a good one. That was, the threat. That's why Ravaging Man-Beast isn't my number 1, because he was really doing some crazy stuff, and I don't know who can beat him.
That actually read like a modern novel. If you'd often see something like that where this thing keeps doubling in size and it's impossible to stop. So that was my favorite, and I thought it was well written as well. And
so that's my number 2. He ranked pretty high for this one. The next one I have is, I do have a Grimoire Game for you.
What is this, some kind of game?
Grimoire Game!
Some people think this is entertainment.
Oh God, I don't even know how I'll do it. My lack of knowledge is going to be exposed here.
It's 8. This is actually a recycled game from Hanging with the Halliwells. This is the same game I quizzed Sean on Leo for Vaya con Leos.
Okay.
So the questions should be familiar to you, and a lot of these I did talk about in this episode. I talked about them, so I did give you a lot of the answers already.
Okay, that's good.
But no pressure, no pressure. And I do have multiple choice for a lot of these as well.
Okay.
All right. So, first question. Name an episode with Leo in its title.
Oh, it's that Spanishy one. Leo Cotton Veas or something. What's that? You said it. Yeah, you said it twice.
I just said it.
Is that the one with all the Leos around town? It's like everybody looks like Big John Malkovich.
Yeah.
Okay. And
there's 3 episodes you can choose from. Yeah, any one would do.
They're all sexy titles. I'll tell you that. That's what you said to me. I should have just had the I could have flicked over to Excel my Excel file here and just look for Leo, but I'm not cheating both hands. Oh God. Leo dies again and comes back again. No, that's not one. Leo and Piper. I'm so bad with episode title because I've only watched the episode once. I can't quite remember.
Okay, so there's the first one was season 4, episode 17, Saving Private Leo.
Oh,
you did that one.
That's the one I was thinking of. Leo dies and comes back to life. That's the one.
Yeah. Then you can do season 7, episode 9. There's something about Leo.
Oh yes.
And then you can do season 8, episode 10, Vaya con Leos.
That's the one I almost said.
Yeah, you said it. You said the right words, just in a different order.
All right, okay.
All right, number 2. Which of the following is not a power ever displayed by Leo?
Okay.
A, hovering. B, electrokinesis. C, chronokinesis. D, aerokinesis. Or E, healing.
It's either B, C, or D. It's not A and E. Chronokinesis. Has he ever done anything timey-wimey? I'm going to say C, but I think it's a trap.
It was a trap. I know. He did do chronokinesis while he was in Avatar. And there's something about Leo when where he turned back time to when Piper Yeah,
Oh, that was a really good special effect as well. One of the best.
it was.
Yes.
Yeah, his little face, his little grr face, and then they just like the zoom out of down the
Yeah.
stairs and stuff. Very fun. So the actual answer was aerokinesis D with the wind and stuff. He never had the wind power.
Okay.
Okay. Number 3. Which episode did Leo first appear in? I have options for you.
Okay.
So, Thank You for Not Morphing. That's 103. Dream Sorcerer. That's 105. The Fourth Sister. That's 107. Or The Witch is Back, which is 109.
I remember when he joined, I said, "Is this guy just being hard because he looks like Anthony Stewart Head?" And he sort of does look like an American version of him. I'm going to say it's early. It's one of the early ones.
Yeah, so
I'm going to go really early. I'm going to go 103.
You are correct. Yeah, 103.
Yes, I got one right.
Thank you for that morphing. He's not in the entire episode until the very end.
Okay.
So that he comes over after they watch their Christmas tape.
Yeah, I remember he was just loitering around there for a few episodes before we got into him.
Yeah. All right. Number 4. What is the name of Leo's previous wife? I have A, Martha, B, Lillian, C, Lucille, or D, Mary. This was an Ex Libris.
Yeah, I remember it well. They're all sufficiently 1940s names. Mary's kind of an Irish name, so I think I'd remember that. So I'm going to exclude that.
Okay.
I think it's because you put 2 L's in there. It's one of them. So Lucille or Lillian?
Lucille or Lillian? Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say Lillian. B.
That's correct. Yes,
Yeah.
Lillian. All right, number 5. There's only 8 questions. Number 5. Which of the 7 deadly sins was Leo infected with?
I can't even. Okay, it's process of elimination. Okay, it wasn't lust, I don't think. Greed. Oh, he was sitting on the couch watching TV and eating popcorn. So that's sloth, is it? Or laziness? Sloth, is it? SLOTH?
Sloth.
Yes.
Yes, correct. All right, number 6. In A Night to Remember, what impressive act did Leo perform that Piper thought was very sexy? And these are the options. A, confronted the evil enchantress. B, opened the portal to the Dark Ages. C, sword fought with a guard. Or D, that tongue thing.
It's the sword fighting.
Correct. That's the sword fighting. Yes. Leo, I gotta say, I find the sight of you very sexy.
I tell you, he trained with a sword in his acting whenever.
Yeah, it was
background.
hot. All right, number 7. What year did Leo die in before becoming a White Lighter? I did say this once in this episode.
Okay.
1939, 1940, 1941, or 1942.
Well, America joined the war on the 7th of December 1941. I would say he didn't get. It would have taken him a few weeks to get to the Pacific Islands, so it must have been 1942.
Correct, 1942. Cool. All right, and the last question is, what is the headline of the Book of Shadows entry that Leo wrote for his sons? Very fitting for this book.
Was it a spell?
It's a headline, and it's actually a segment in this podcast.
Words of witches. Let's look at the email I got from you. See if what are you? Let's see.
That's not on there.
Okay. Best baddie? No. Why would he write that? Continuity? No.
So, what did he write for his sons, Wyatt and Chris?
I don't know what way. No, unless it's something like I love you or some sort of something emotional. But
you're gonna hate yourself. Tips for future White Lighters.
Oh, yes, indeed. Hidden in plain sight.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Speaking of that, the next section is tips for future White Lighters. But you did very good. I thought you got like about half of them right, so that's great.
I've only seen these episodes once, and they're all mushed together in my brain. So
right, yeah, and I've seen them countless times, so I do have an advantage. But yeah, I think you did very well for seeing them only once. Yeah, no, that's great. But now we're in tips for future white lighters.
I was out being a force of good in the universe.
This is the moral or lesson we could have learned from the book. So what do you think the moral is for this one?
It's I believe it's science and magics. I think, was it Arthur C. Clarke said magic is only distinguishable from science in our ability to, where technology is at the time. I don't know what the exact quote is, but I think is that magic is not what it seems to be. It's all science.
Yeah.
Which kind of breaks the series totally. but so if you see something you think it's magical, delve into it and question yourself as to what's really going on.
Cool. I like it. That makes sense. That's cool. I didn't even think about that one, but yeah, I like it. All right. So my tip is living a life to the fullest with ones you love and not in constant fear is better than walking on eggshells forever. So it's kind of going back to this, do you join the fight or hide away? But I feel like it's better just to live, and whatever happens, at least you're living your life.
I believe this one is another one as well that maybe ties into that. It's about, applying knowledge. So Nisha is a teacher.
Sure.
She clearly has the ability to do everything, but it's only when she's in the practical situation that she's able to employ her skills. So don't, make sure you apply what you learn in life.
Yeah, beautiful. That's great. Exactly that. All right, so we have reached the end. Thank you for joining me. Oh my goodness.
Thank you, Kevin. Very enjoyable. I'm glad I squeezed in with the penultimate book. Thank you very much for inviting me on as well.
Of course, yeah. I had somebody drop out, and you were perfect. You're the first person I thought of to fill in. So
excellent. Thank you, whoever dropped out, for giving me the chance as well.
yeah. Where can people find you if you want them to follow you on the social medias and see your things?
I'm really just on Twitter. I haven't joined I haven't really explored sort of charmed life, shall we say. I'm not sure I do follow a few people on Twitter, but my own is @BernardJKD, and I review different series. If you could just ignore the general football banter, but I every few weeks or months I move on to a different series when I've consumed the series I was on. But I promise I will be, although I won't be tweeting about future Charmed episodes, I definitely will be rewatching them, because I've got 2 apps now that I can watch Charmed at any stage. And I am tempted to buy the Blu-rays as well. I think it's the German Blu-rays, so I will. But, so @BernardJKD on Twitter is the best place to find me.
Great. Cool. Well, you can follow this podcast at Words of the Witches on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. Words of Witches if you're on Twitter. You can follow my other podcast, Solving for X, which is the X-Men podcast with Sean. Or if you want to go back and listen to the old Hanging with the Halliwells episodes, those are still there too. Really fun. So we'll see you later this month, because I'm trying to get that last episode done. So August 26th is what I'm going for the last episode. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening, Spellworders. Until next time, your destiny still awaits.